wait till the last moment before we forced them to extend it, but they jumped so quickly to help their friends out with $1 billion bailout. These are the choices this government has made. They continue to choose again and again to quickly help out their friends, but make people wait for help. That is the reality of this crisis. In the beginning of the crisis, this government jumped to the help of banks with billions of dollars, but again...
Yeah. The honourable member, I'm sorry, the honourable member will have 9 minutes to conclude the speech after question period. I now have to give the floor to statements by members and the honourable member for an opinion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to highlight an issue which many Canadians, including all Palestinian Canadians, are concerned with. Israel has said it is preparing to annex significant Palestinian territory in the West Bank. This would be a devastating blow to the Palestinian human rights. This unilateral annexation would be damaging to peace negotiations and international law. We are also concerned that this could lead to further insecurity for Israelis and Palestinians at a critical time for peace and stability in the region. We have long maintained that peace can only be achieved through direct negotiation between the parties. I call upon our government to take concrete, visible, and decisive action on our firm commitment to the goal of achieving a comprehensive, just, and lasting peace both for Israel and Palestine. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Renfrew-Nipissing Pembroke.
Madam Speaker, 3 strikes and you're out. That's what my constituents are saying about the most corrupt Prime Minister in the history of Canada and the latest Liberal ethical lapse, the We Charity Trudeau family scandal. The decision by this government to provide millions of taxpayer dollars to We Charity...
No points of order.
And statements by members. No.
There's no points of order. You can't have a point of order. You can't stop.
You can't stop a statement by member. I'm sorry.
The decision by this government to provide millions of taxpayer dollars to We Charity, an organization that's been lining the pockets of members of the Liberal Party to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars, is beyond disgusting. Using a national crisis like a health pandemic to line Liberal family members' pockets is morally reprehensible. The unfortunate reality is this abuse of charity means the people most affected are some of the poorest on this planet. Unlike dressing up in blackface or groping a female reporter, this time the Prime Minister is not going to get away with hiding on some fantasy island vacation or avoiding democracy by shutting down.
The honourable member for Hochelaga. Thank you, Madam Speaker. On June 2nd last, Quebec lost a well-known visionary, well-known of Montreal. He was born in 1966. Yvon Lavard was the president of the executive committee of the city of Montreal under Jean Drapeau's leadership. We owe him the Lachine Colon, Operation 20,000 housing units, more accessibility for disabled, and a para-transport type of organization. In 1986, he created the Yvon Lamar Foundation. Today, over 30 residences for persons with disabilities and for people with autism spectrum disorder and other physical disabilities. These buildings help many people, and as with you, our government cares about all Canadians living with disabilities, and we intend to provide additional funding to these people during these difficult times. Mr. Lamar, on behalf of my family and many Canadian families, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. The honourable member. Madam Speaker, on June 1st last, Air Canada said it would abandon many routes and it would abandon many regional airports in eastern Quebec. This was a tough blow for my region, and a small airport will lose 30% of its business. However, people in the ground have put their heads together and have brainstormed new ways of providing air transportation. We are looking at an alternative to private airlines because air service should be a tool of regional development, and the government should support any Quebec initiative instead of supporting private companies willing to give up on Quebec from one day to the next. Air travel should serve citizens and not shareholders of private organizations. The honourable member for Châteauguay-Lacolle.
Death of George Floyd, May 25th in Minneapolis, the words Black Lives Matter have mobilized not only Americans but millions seeking justice across the world and here in Canada. My own hometown of Châteauguay held its first ever Black Lives Matter protest attended by hundreds of people of all ages and from all racial and linguistic backgrounds, including our next door neighbors in Kahnawake. Mais les protestants,
But the protests must translate into actions, Mr. Speaker. It's not enough to walk and to demonstrate. You have to work to change things. And so I brought together online 20 citizens from the Black community and young Black leaders to discuss systemic racism and to see how together we can change things in Châteauguay-Lacolle. A committee to follow up on these initiatives was struck.
Paul Elmer, who also chairs the Canadian Caucus of Black Parliamentarians, for attending our inaugural meeting and for his longtime leadership in fighting for Black Canadians. Thank you.
The honourable member for District Mississippi Churchill River.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize two communities in northwest Saskatchewan. On April 15th, the first case of COVID-19 was identified in the town of La Loche. This quickly escalated into 220 cases, with another 62 cases in the neighboring Clearwater River Denny Nation. La Loche and Clearwater were considered to be the hotspot of Indigenous communities in all of Canada at the time. Of the 15 deaths in Saskatchewan from COVID, 5 were residents of La Loche, bringing further pain to an already difficult situation. I'm happy to say that as of Wednesday, La Loche and Clearwater River Denny Nation have 0 active cases. Mayor Robert St. Pierre and Chief Teddy Clark have shown incredible leadership in guiding the people through this very real crisis. The Saskatchewan Health Authority and the Northern Intertribal Health Authority initiated an unprecedented door-to-door testing and contact tracing campaign that contributed to managing this outbreak. Mr. Speaker, this situation is a great example of people in Northern Saskatchewan working together for the common good.
The honourable member for Argenteuil-La Petite Nation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As you know, traveling outside of Canada is limited during the pandemic, and for many people, the months of July and August mean holidays. So I'd like to take this moment to invite our citizens to visit Quebec, our regions, and small municipalities, including in my riding of Argenteuil-La Petite Nation. We have over 41 municipalities in beautiful landscapes, beautiful rivers where you can swim and canoe. And the people who live there are very warm and welcoming. People can sail on one of the 85 lakes in St. Adolphe Howard. There are many tourist attractions and heritage sites. Today, more than ever, our tourism industry depends on us. So let's visit our own cities and regions. Let's encourage our local economies. And I certainly wish all of you a safe and happy summer holiday.
L'honorable député de Hull.
The honourable member for Hull-Aylmer. It is with great sadness that I rise today to speak to the passing of the former mayor of Hull, Mr. Marcel Damour. He was 97 years old. People often use the word builder and tireless, but these words perfectly described Mr. Damour. Thanks to his indomitable spirit, the Outaouais became an economic success story in the National Capital Region. He won 3 consecutive mandates. He tried to convince the government to move more buildings, federal buildings, into Quebec. He didn't manage that, but years later, Trudeau Sr. moved government buildings into the Outaouais. I had the privilege of visiting Mr. Damour 3 times at his house. We talked about the past, and we talked about the challenges of today. He was and still was a builder. He wanted to see light rail come to Gatineau to connect it with Ottawa. So on behalf of the citizens of Hull-Aylmer, our deepest condolences and thank you for lending us this wonderful political builder.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, Canadian small and medium business owners step up to the plate to give back to their communities. Many had to close shop with no warning for uncertain period. Uncertainty is one factor that can take a business down. Small and medium businesses have long been the economic engine of this country, and now it's them that they need their country more than ever. What they need right now is clarity on various government programs, such as the wage subsidy and the rent assistance. How long will they run? Is there anything else coming to help them? Those questions are there, Mr. Speaker. A diversity of small businesses that I have been visiting and talking to in my riding have reached out and want answers from this government. Mr. Speaker, every time a small business closes down, it's a piece of community that we may never see again. Let's help them out. They need us. Thank you.
The honourable member for Canada Carleton.
Mr. Speaker, 2020 has been a very difficult year, right around the globe and here at home as well. So many of our fellow citizens are already dealing with loss and sorrow, and then this past weekend, an accident in Jasper National Park claimed more lives, causing more pain and grief. Mr. Speaker, I count my blessings being Canadian, as I feel that most Canadians react to sorrow and grief with compassion and empathy and heartfelt wish to console. We know that it is togetherness that will help us to make it through the suffering that might come our way. And as long as we are looking after each other, as long as we are willing to share that burden of pain and sorrow, we can face whatever comes our way. Nous vous accompagnons.
We are with you.
And thank you to all who have reached out to help, friend and stranger alike. You are an inspiration. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Steveston, Richmond East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There are over 4,000 individuals with cystic fibrosis in Canada. I have met with some of them and heard their story. CF is a genetic disease that impacts the lungs of these Canadians, causing shortness of breath, increased risk of infection, and destruction of lung, leading to loss of lung function. It will lead to death for the majority. But we can do something about it. For example, Health Canada could create a special access program for Trikafta, a new drug that would treat and improve the quality of life for 90% of these Canadians. It is imperative that treatments for rare disorders be allowed in Canada before it is too late for those whose life these medications could save. I urge the government to reconsider the regulatory changes being made, now delayed until January, that would make the Canadian market unappealing for drug companies to introduce new products, especially treatments for rare disorders like CF. Thank you.
The member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to take this opportunity to pay tribute to you, two young girls whom we lost too soon. Nora and Romy Carpentier, who died in tragic circumstances. Our hearts were crushed, and we are together sad at their passing. I would also like to pay tribute to the unrelenting courage of their mother, Miss Amélie Lemieux, who has shown us what resilience and strength means in the face of challenges we have not chosen. So, as the MP for Lévis-Lotbinière, as a father and grandfather, from the bottom of my heart, I hope that your wish comes true, Ms. Lemieux, and that your two beautiful princesses, your two beautiful stars, Nora and Romy, will guide you in moments to come. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for London Fanshawe.
Mr. Speaker, the ramifications of COVID-19 will be felt for a long time, and Canada's youth are most definitely being hit hard. The disruption in their education and employment opportunities will have lasting effects on their lives and on Canada for years. Instead of using existing programs to help students, the Liberals have asked them to rely on the now stalled Canada Student Service Grant. The Prime Minister and his Liberal government are under investigation, and this program isn't working. Students now find themselves stuck in the middle of yet another Liberal scandal. Students shouldn't have to keep waiting for the government to find its moral compass. They need work and financial support now. The government needs to cancel this complicated program and transfer the funds to the Canada Summer Jobs Program or give grants directly to the volunteer sector. This would ensure jobs will be accessible for students who need help right now. It is time that this Liberal government stop putting corporations and their well-connected friends first and start helping students in Canada.
The honourable member for Saint-Jean. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Bloc has long deplored immigration processing delays. What was already a problem now has consequences, humanitarian consequences in this pandemic. As it now stands, immigrant doctors and nurses are unable to work because their work permit application is on hard copy, and it's impossible to keep track of all these applications. Families are separated. Some have been separated for up to 8 years, and people who have been here for a long time are not getting the help they need because of the legendary inefficiency of the Immigration Department. The cases of these guardian angels is not advancing. The government is not making their cases a priority. What is it waiting for? The government should work twice as hard to approve these applications. It is time for the Department of Immigration show it cares and that technologically it move up to the 21st century.
COVID-19 has taken a tremendous toll on the health, safety, and prosperity of Canadians. And in my riding of Haldimand, Norfolk, too many people have been negatively impacted by this pandemic. But you know what, Mr. Speaker? Through it all, the strength and kindness of the people of my community has been deeply heartening. To our many frontline healthcare and emergency personnel who are putting their own lives at risk every day to protect us, to our farmers and farm workers who are working so hard to ensure that our food supply is both secure and sufficient, to those who kept our grocery and pharmacy shelves stocked, to the business owners who shifted their products and services to help fight COVID-19, and to all those who have done their part during these difficult times, please know that you have our utmost thanks, and we are beyond grateful to you for your efforts. Thank you, and be well.
The honourable member for Scarborough Rouge Park.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to celebrate the life of Congressman John Robert Lewis, a civil rights icon who served the American people with honor and distinction. He was a courageous warrior who fought against racism and for equality in all of its forms. He was inspired by Dr. Martin Luther King's nonviolent struggle for racial equality and was part of the seminal moments of the civil rights movement. He was one of the original freedom riders. He marched on Bloody Sunday in Selma, Alabama in 1965, where he was beaten by state troopers, and he helped organize the March on Washington. The work he started nearly 60 years ago remains unfinished. One of his last public appearances was to protest the George Floyd killing at the hands of the Minneapolis police. We grieve together with our American brothers and sisters on the passing of the conscience of their nation. As he passes the torch to another generation of civil rights leaders, let us honor him by doubling our efforts to combat racism and achieving true equality. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Bravo. Oral questions. Question orale, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, June 10th was the last time the House of Commons met to deal with the legislation that we've been summoned back for today. In the meantime, the Prime Minister has been rocked by a $900 million scandal in which he gave a sole source contract to an organization that paid his immediate family members hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, the Prime Minister could have picked any day to summon members of Parliament back to work, but on his website it says that he's taking, quote, a personal day. I guess he needed another long weekend. Why is the Prime Minister taking a personal day? And I'd like to ask the Deputy Prime Minister, is everything okay?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for that question. As Deputy Prime Minister, part of my job is to be accountable to this chamber when the Prime Minister is not here. It's a privilege for me to answer questions on behalf of the government from members on the other side of the House. And I'm very happy to answer any questions the opposition has today.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
On va voir, Monsieur le Président.
Well, we'll see, Mr. Speaker. Every day, we learn new troubling details about the WE charity. This weekend, Charity Intelligence stated that it had serious concerns about the WE charity. That includes the financial statements and resignations from the Board of Directors. Is the Deputy Prime Minister aware of this? Was Cabinet and Prime Minister aware of that when the contract was given to his friends at We Charity? The Deputy Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, the nonpartisan public service recommended the We Charity as the only way of delivering the program. Clearly, the way in this was rolled out was regrettable, and this is why we are dealing with this project.
Organization with a charitable wing that receives money from the taxpayer. That same organization sets up a for-profit corporation that charges the charity for, quote, services. At the same time, the charity and the for-profit are gobbling up tens of millions of dollars worth of prime Toronto real estate, all the while giving a platform and endorsements to the politicians who approved the grants in the first place. Now, this isn't a plot line in a Sopranos episode, Mr. Speaker. This is the Prime Minister's current scandal. So will the Prime Minister show up at committee and testify?
Will Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the nonpartisan public service recommended this structure as the only way to deliver the program in the required time. Obviously, the way this unfolded was regrettable, and that is why the charity is no longer administering the project. When it comes to the committee, we are cooperating with it as we ought to do.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, it's odd that the public service would come up with this idea all on their own. Charity Intelligence, a watchdog for charitable organizations, says WE has no experience delivering this kind of program. Quote, I'm not sure how you would assess the charity's track record or capability to do this if it had not previously done such work in the past. That's from the Managing Director, Kate Baheen. Now, the Liberals say it is the public service that recommended WE, and yet it was WE that sent a proposal to manage this program directly to Rachel Wernick on the same day that the Prime Minister announced the program. So who in the Prime Minister's office prepped WE for this announcement?
Will Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member opposite for the question. As we heard clearly last week at committee, it was the nonpartisan public service that recommended this structure as the only way to deliver the program in the required time. Let me also be clear with Canadians that the way this unfolded was regrettable, and the charity will no longer be administering the project.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Contrary to what the Deputy Prime Minister is saying, Mr. Speaker, nothing is becoming clear from testimony at the committee. In fact, on the Ethics Committee, Liberal members shamefully filibustered and ran out the clock so they wouldn't have to answer these types of questions. Getting up in the House of Commons and responding is not the same as giving an answer to very specific questions. Charity Intelligence went on to say that in 2018, the auditor flagged for the first time that WE Charity was in breach of its bank covenants. That is a massive, massive red flag, end quote. Now, either the Liberals were aware of these issues and still approved the decision, or they were incompetent. It's either corruption or incompetence. Which is it?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it is neither. And let me simply be clear, as we heard from Canada's excellent public service last week, it was our nonpartisan public service that recommended this structure as the only way to deliver the program in the required time. Now, obviously, the way this unfolded was regrettable, and that is why it's important for me to assure Canadians that the charity is no longer administering the project.
The Honourable Member for Bellerive-Chambly. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I received about an hour ago a very important message from Louis Sans Façon, who is the father of Émilie Sans Façon. He had met with the Prime Minister when he came to Parliament about a month ago, and during that meeting he said that the Prime Minister would consider the request made by people who pay the same taxes in a family. The Prime Minister talked about 50 weeks, an increase of 50 weeks. Deputy Prime Minister, would she agree? Thank you very much for your question, but I can tell you it's very important for our government to support Canadians in this time of serious economic crisis. We want to help Canadians. We are doing that now, and I can assure the House that we will continue to do just that. The honourable member for Bellerive-Chambly, well, we can see the questions aren't always set out ahead of time. There was no shadow of an answer in what was just said. I can come back to what the Prime Minister had said on this subject. For those people that are victims of very serious illnesses and are on EI. The Deputy Prime Minister, I can assure you and all the members in this House that, and all Canadians, in fact, that the government understands the importance of helping Canadians who are in this very serious economic crisis. And we understand the importance of help for people and support for people who have a serious illness. The Honourable Member for Burnaby South. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The We Charity scandal is yet another example of the Liberal government that says nice things in public but works to help out their close friends behind closed doors. If the government were really wanting to help students, it should use the existing programs. Would the Liberal government admit today that this was never about helping students, not helping students, but rather just helping their close friends? Deputy Prime Minister, thank you so much for your question. Mr. Speaker, what our government understands is the importance of helping young Canadians today. The economic history indicates that they are particularly threatened by the circumstances today. The Liberal government is there for this young generation. This is a promise that we make to all Canadians.
There were lots of ways to help students. This was not it. What was it? It was a $1 billion bailout of close friends of the Liberal Party and of the Prime Minister. People with disabilities were told to wait for months before they got help. People who saw their CERB about to end were also told to wait. People who need help were told again and again to wait by this government. But when close friends of the Liberal government and close friends of the Prime Minister need help, they jumped in with nearly $1 billion bailout. Will the government admit that this wasn't about helping students? This was about helping their close friends.
Well, Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'll tell you what this government believes in. We understand that economic recessions and depressions pose a particular threat to young people, and that is why we acted swiftly to support young Canadians. And I want to say to all young Canadians, we will not allow you to be left behind. We will not allow you to be a lost generation.
Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
Mr. Speaker, last week at Ethics Committee, Liberal members filibustered the committee in an attempt to obstruct further examination of the Prime Minister's role in awarding a sole source deal to his buddies at the We organization. This comes after Liberals blocked the Ethics Commissioner from testifying at committee regarding the Trudeau II report, where the PM was found to have broken ethics laws for a second time. Where's the Prime Minister's commitment to transparency and openness when he sends members to committee to do his dirty work?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, mon collègue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My colleague knows full well that the committees are independent and they take their decisions independently. They operate according to their priorities, their knowledge of the files before them, and they ask questions. The government will never direct members of Parliament's work. The work of committees is too important not to be respected.
Lakes.
Well, like the Prime Minister, the Finance Minister has close family with financial ties to the WE organization. Despite this, and despite his previous record of ethical breaches, the Finance Minister did not recuse himself from discussions or the decision to award a whopping $43 million taxpayer-funded bailout to the WE organization. With broken bank covenants and its board in shambles, did the minister know the state of the WE organization when he signed off on this plan worth $912 million taxpayer dollars?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I have been clear and our government's been clear, the health and safety of all Canadians remains our priority. The Finance Committee asked for myself to come and testify. I was present. They asked for officials to come. Officials have testified. What is clear and what has been shared and stated publicly is that the nonpartisan public service, professional public service, made a recommendation. We accepted their recommendation. Our focus remains on making sure that students have additional supports in this very challenging and unprecedented time. It was a contribution agreement that was signed and negotiated between the public service and We Charity. Mr. Speaker, I did sign off on that recommendation. It was the only one they provided, and after due diligence, I'm confident that they did their important work. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Friday, on the 17th of June, the Liberals, rather July, systematically blocked at the Ethics Committee what was underway. But yet there was this tie between the Prime Minister and We Charity. This is something that should be looked at by the Ethics Commissioner. Mr. Speaker, if you allow me, I would just like to remind my colleague that there is a certain independence where the members of the committee can act independently. But on the government side, the members act independently. Perhaps the Conservatives do not. It's very important for the proper functioning of the House that committee members be independent and operate that way. The Honourable Member for Lotbinière-Lévis. Well, this new scandal is such that transparency is even more important with respect to the Prime Minister and his cabinet. Will the Prime Minister lift the veil and reveal all the truth to Canadians? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, as I said, that the intent was always to bring together students and an ability to access the bursary. As I have said to the committee when I was there, I was there because I was asked to appear. We asked the public service to make recommendations, and I accepted their recommendations. The Honourable Member for Carleton.
That she and her and the government did due diligence before granting this $912 million contribution agreement to We Charity. Did this due diligence demonstrate through the publicly available sources that We Charity had somehow accumulated over $40 million of real estate?
The Honourable Minister of Diversity, Inclusion and Youth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, so members of all parties passed a motion at the Finance Committee to ensure that I could appear to provide these answers. They also requested that officials appear, and officials also appeared last Thursday to provide these information in a public format so that this information could be available. As I shared at committee, and I continue to share, that the nonpartisan professional public service made a recommendation. I am confident that they did their due diligence. Any of the information that was shared with me from the public service, I shared at committee to ensure that Canadians and members could have those answers. It was a contribution agreement that was signed because our focus was on students and not-for-profits in this very challenging time.
The Honourable Member for Carleton.
Mais la question était oui ou non.
Yes, but the question was yes or no. Did the public service or did the government know that this organization had acquired more than $40 million worth of property? Perhaps we'll know the answer one day. Here's another question. If the government's telling the truth that it respects committees, the committee invited the Prime Minister to appear to testify. So now, yes or no, will the Prime Minister appear? The Honourable the Minister.
It's very regrettable the way the situation has unfolded, as the Prime Minister has also stated that he recognizes that he should have recused himself. We know that the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner is doing an investigation. We have stated that we would comply with them. To the member's first question, any of the information that was made available to myself, I made available to committee members, and it was on their recommendation that I accepted their recommendation, because for our goal was always to deliver for Canadians, to provide an additional support to students. We recognize that not-for-profits are also facing a very challenging time, so it was an opportunity to put in a program that would help people in a very challenging time.
The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. In the midst of a pandemic, the government, the Prime Minister, creates a $900 million program without going to tender. It concludes that only that could be operated by those people who hire the Trudeau family. So is there a single member of a cabinet who could explain to us how they got to the conclusion that We Charity was the only entity that could administer the program? The Honourable the Minister, as I explained to the Finance Committee, we had a vision for young people, for students, and we asked people to give us ideas. I'm confident about the work that was done. Recommendations were made. Questions were asked. I accepted their recommendations, and that is how we reached that decision, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. While we're in the midst of a pandemic, when we should be sure that the government is working for the common good, when we should be sure that only the public interest is what counts, the Prime Minister is working for his family and chums, $40 million rather, for an organization that hires his family with taxpayer money. Well, could the Prime Minister not step away, if he were sincere, from his position until the Ethics Commissioner's inquiry is finished?
Unprecedented and challenging time, and we know that Canadians are hurting. We know that COVID-19 has impacted all Canadians, disproportionately impacting the most vulnerable, and students are no exception. The program we put out that was for students was a $9 billion program in support, including the creation of the Canada Emergency Student Benefit. We doubled Canada student grants for full and part-time students. We instituted a 6-month moratorium on Canada student loans. We increased funding for First Nations, Inuit, and Métis students purposing post-secondary. We announced 10,000 additional jobs for Canada Summer Jobs Program. A new investment of 100, that's right, Mr. Speaker, this is how much we've been doing.
L'honorable député de Rivière-du-Loup.
The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Loup. Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm very happy. I come from Rivière-du-Loup. That doesn't even answer my question, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister did not recuse himself before the decision was made or after the decision was made. Why? It's because he's been caught out. Why did the Prime Minister remain silent when his mother and his brother were paid by We Charity? Why did he try to hide the truth? Because he knew that his decision was ethically indefensible. The Minister. On the contrary, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister said that he shouldn't have been there when we made the decision. He assumed responsibility for that. And the government wants to continue to ensure that programs are available there for students. And we want to know that Canadians have the resources they need now. And the young people are our leaders of today and tomorrow. During the pandemic, the Liberal government is here for all Canadians. We will work for all Canadians.
Profoot.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The We Charity scandal continues to deepen. More troubling details are being revealed daily. With their filibuster in the Ethics Committee last week, it would seem that they are hiding something embarrassing. Every minister should be asked about their connection to We. The Transport Minister, the Employment Minister, and the Foreign Affairs Minister have made it clear that they knew nothing about the Prime Minister's conflict of interest. The rest of Cabinet, however, must come clean. Can the Minister tell us if she was aware of the Prime Minister's blatant conflict of interest?
Well, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've been clear that my focus as the Minister of Youth has been on ensuring that young people have the supports they need during this pandemic. The member asks very good questions, and that's exactly why when members of all parties supported a motion at Finance Committee to have us appear, I appeared. The first possible opportunity to have myself appear, I was there, and I made sure that my officials were there as well to answer these very questions. What is clear is that the Public Service made a recommendation. I accepted the recommendation because my goal will be to ensure that young people have the supports they need, and I shared all that information. It's publicly available. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Calgary Skyview.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister does not believe that the rules apply to him. Outsourcing nearly $1 billion of taxpayers' money to an organization with not only close ties to his party, but also to his family is greatly disturbing. It's always one set of rules for Liberals and another for everyone else. We've seen here today that the Liberals refuse to answer the questions we have about the scandal. When will the Prime Minister agree to testify at committee?
Good question.
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the health and safety of Canadians is a shared responsibility, and that's why we continue to work day in, day out to ensure that those supports are available. Members of the Finance Committee, members of all parties of the Finance Committee asked me to appear, and I appeared. Officials appeared as well. And what officials also reiterated was that they made a recommendation based on the organization having the capacity to deliver this substantial program in the timeline needed. These questions have been answered, and we will continue assuring Canadians, reminding Canadians that we will be here to support them, and the Conservatives continue to do their tactics, but we will stay focused on them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians deserve answers after the Prime Minister got caught awarding $1 billion of taxpayers' money to We, an organization that benefited the Prime Minister politically and socially and enriched his family. The Prime Minister famously said that sunshine is the best disinfectant. So, will the Prime Minister let the sun shine in and appear before the Finance Committee to answer questions about this sordid affair, or will he continue to hide?
The Honourable Minister for Diversity and Youth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think it's important that the record state what is actually taking place. There was a substantial line item, $912 million for the Canada Student Service Grant. A vast majority of that program, that line item, was for grants to really reward students because they've been rolling up their sleeves, helping to heal communities and helping not-for-profits during this very challenging time. And it was a contribution agreement that was signed, and at maximum, which we know will not happen because We Charity is no longer delivering this program, they would have been able to receive a maximum of 43.5. Mr. Speaker, it's also important to note that the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner is investigating, and we will...
The Honourable Member for London Fanshawe.
Mr. Speaker, once again, the Liberals are in trouble after handing over almost $1 billion contract to their friends at We. Meanwhile, students have to wait to get paid for the time that they have already spent working in their communities. That was time given in good faith. During COVID, students are facing disruption in their studies and lack of employment opportunities. Their futures are at stake, but Liberals prefer keeping their wealthy friends wealthy instead of helping students to make ends meet. When will the Liberals put the future of students ahead of the interests of their friends and the well-connected?
Mr. Speaker, I would like to share with the member, because she's obviously not seen the $9 billion student support program that we put forward. And so we announced $9 billion in support, including the creation of the Canada Emergency Student Benefit. We doubled Canada student grants for full and part-time students. We instituted a 6-month moratorium on Canada student loans. We increased funding for First Nations, Inuit, Métis students for post-secondary during this very challenging time. So we've created an additional 10,000 additional jobs through the Canada Summer Jobs Program. Mr. Speaker, the list is long because we are here to ensure that there is a suite of programs to support students during this very challenging time. We will continue to ensure that they have those supports. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Hamilton Centre.
Canadians know that giving an apology is not the same as taking responsibility, yet the Liberals continue to refuse to take responsibility for this disturbing pattern of self-dealing that now sees the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister under an ethics investigation. It's as if the Liberals think the rules don't apply to them, that they get to do favors for their family, the wealthy and elite, and get away with it with the magic words, "I'm sorry," but that doesn't cut it. Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister finally take responsibility and agree to waive the Cabinet confidentiality, attend the Ethics Committee, and fully cooperate with the Ethics Commissioner investigation into the We Charity scandal?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we have been clear that we will be complying with the Ethics Commissioner, and that's something we have always done. We actually have the utmost respect for officers of Parliament, and we know that they do very important work, and that's why it's important that we let the Commissioner do his important work. I think it's also important to note that our focus is on Canadians and delivering programs for them, and that's why we have put forward the Canada Emergency Student Benefit. We have put forward Canada Summer Jobs. We had made sure that these programs are actually modified to ensure that they are within the COVID-19 context, because we want to ensure the health and safety of all Canadians, including students. Yes, we will continue fighting for students. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I know we've been away from the House for a while. I just want to remind the honourable members how it works. We ask the question, and then we get a response. So I just want to make sure that helping from the other side, or whatever side it's on, whether it's during the question or during the answer, is not the way we should be doing things. I just wanted to put that out there. The honourable member for Lac St. Louis.
Speaker, my constituents in Lac St. Louis and Canadians across the country are eager to know when we can return to normal. In my riding, families have made changes to their lives, from staying home to wearing masks so they can keep themselves and our community safe. Recently, we heard the news that Medicago, a Quebec company, has been approved by Health Canada to begin clinical trials for a COVID-19 vaccine. Can the Minister please tell us the status of this research?
Good question. Minister of Immigration.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, et merci à mon collègue, le membre.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank my colleague for the question and all of his work. We know that it's essential to invest in research so that our best and brightest can find treatment methods and a possible vaccine.
Canada approved the clinical trial for Medicago's COVID-19 vaccine in Canada. This is the first vaccine from a Canadian company to enter human trials, and we are pleased to support such important research in Canada. Thank you.
The honourable member for Calgary Shepherd.
Here we go again, Mr. Speaker. The CMHC paid $250,000 to a group that labels homeowners as lottery winners to see how they could be taxed some more. The minister claims they're not looking at a capital gains tax, but recall, Mr. Speaker, before the previous election, there was a document entitled the Ontario Caucus Priorities for 2019 platform, where these tax options were being considered by no less than now the current parliamentary secretary to the same minister. The CMHC study is looking at a home equity tax. So, will the government end this charade and commit to no new tax, no tax hikes on principal residences of homeowners?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
I want to thank the member for that question. I want to be very clear. This is not something that this government is considering. We are not looking at tax changes on principal residences. That is not something that we're looking into, and we will not be considering that in the future.
Thank you for that clear answer.
L'honorable député de Beauce.
Monsieur le Président, la SR.
The honourable member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, the CMHC has spent a great deal of money to find out how the government could tax homeowners further. Can the government promise that it will end this practice? And its determination to constantly be taxing more, taxing hard-working Canadians, will it commit to not punishing homeowners and give up on this increased tax on primary residences? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for the question. We are not considering a change in taxation for primary residences. That is not our approach or policy. and we have no intention of doing that.
Beauce.
The honourable member for Beauce. The poultry and egg producers of Canada are at the very end of the rope. The government promised to support them in order to reduce losses caused by the Trans-Pacific Partnership. However, that compensation has still not been given. Now, poultry and egg producers are facing further losses, and they're still waiting. These producers have been patient enough. Can the minister give a date for this compensation to be delivered? We want a date. The agricultural sector is waiting.
Honorable Ministre.
Merci, Monsieur. The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The agricultural sector is critical, and we believe in agricultural production and our farmers. And that is why we said we would be there to help them with compensation. The Minister of Agriculture has had good conversations with the agricultural sector in my colleague's riding, but also elsewhere in the country, and we will be there to defend their interests, especially during this crisis and health and economic crisis, and also given that we signed a partnership with Europe.
Yorkton Melville.
Speaker, on June 15th, I asked the Minister of Veterans Affairs if he was aware of the practice of red flagging veterans' files. His response was, "I'm not aware." And yet on June 2nd, he signed a letter thanking veteran Shane Jones for his emails that had been forwarded to the Minister from the Prime Minister's office. Those emails included ATIP information that confirmed issues Shane was dealing with VAC because there was a flag on his file. I ask again, was the Minister of Veterans Affairs aware of the practice of red flagging veterans' files?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the honourable member for her question, and as we know, we are still looking into it, and I will come back to her with a specific answer as soon as I can. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable député de La Prairie.
The honourable member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, the Aga Khan, Wealth One, Liberal pod companies, We Charity, these are all friends of the Liberal Party. We can't say that ethical scandals are respecting social distancing measures with the Prime Minister. We're in the middle of a pandemic. The House is not sitting. The government is not being transparent, and it's asking everyone to trust it. The Prime Minister has shown that we can't trust him. Is he going to give up his position to the Deputy Prime Minister?
Le leader du gouvernement de la Chambre.
Monsieur le Président, je ne pense pas qu'il y ait de la place.
Mr. Speaker, I don't think there's any room for this type of partisanship today. I respect my colleague, but he says that the House is not sitting, and yet we're sitting right now. And last time I looked at my calendar, Mr. Speaker, we're in July. Normally, the House doesn't sit right now. And yet we're going to be here today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. And I'm happy to answer his questions. The honourable member. Well, if there weren't partisanship, there would be no way to hold the Prime Minister accountable. And it's pretty clear that my colleagues across the way are partisan. I think the Prime Minister should get a subscription to the Ethics Commissioner. This is the third time. The Aga Khan. First strike. Then SNC-Lavalin, second strike, and now it's a hat trick. What is he waiting for to give up his position to the Deputy Prime Minister?
Monsieur le Président, le gouvernement se concentre.
Mr. Speaker, the government is concentrating on programs that are critical for Canadians. CERB, the wage subsidy, the reason we're here today, help for people living with disabilities. We're concentrating on that. The real priorities of Quebecers and Canadians. Because that's our job as a government. It's all very well for the Bloc to put on a little show, but in reality, the government is helping people and concentrating on that, and partisanship isn't going to change that.
For Lethbridge.
The Liberal government seems to have blinders on when it comes to China. Canada has remained silent while China's communist regime is systematically attacking the Uyghur people. Canada is the only member of the Five Eyes Alliance that has not banned Huawei. And now Canada is awarding a Chinese government-owned firm a $6.8 million contract to supply security equipment to our embassies. The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is that good men do nothing. When will the Prime Minister stop pandering and stand up to China?
The Honourable Minister.
Speaker, I welcome the question by my colleague. Let me be very clear for Canadians. No contract has been awarded to NewTek, Mr. Speaker, at this time. And I've been very specific with the department. I've been asking the facts and figures surrounding that contract. I've asked that we review our purchasing practices when it comes to security equipment, and I've asked the department to continue our review of security in all our missions around the world. Let's be very clear, Mr. Speaker, with Canadians. No purchase has been made under this contract.
Honourable Member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are gravely concerned by this government's unwillingness to keep them safe from foreign threats. This government had made clear their plans to use technology from a Chinese state-owned company to secure our embassies. That'd be like asking Jerry Butts to be the ethics commissioner. NewTek works with entities under American sanctions, providing security equipment currently being used in the Uyghur genocide. So to the minister, another review is simply not enough. Will the government clearly commit today to say no to NewTek because of their involvement in Xinjiang and because of the threat they pose to Canadian security?
Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for the question. I thought I was very clear to Canadians, but let me be clear to him. There's been no purchase made under this contract, Mr. Speaker. That's the reality. That is the reality. Let's not be misleading Canadians who are watching, Mr. Speaker. And when the member asked, are we leading, Mr. Speaker, we were the first one to suspend the extradition treaty between Canada and Hong Kong, Mr. Speaker. I was the first one to say that we will stop exporting sensitive items to Hong Kong, and we were the first with the United States to update the travel advisory. Mr. Speaker, we're front and center when it comes to standing up for Canada and standing up for human rights around the world.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, Liberal ministers have said, as they must, that all Canadian citizens resident in Hong Kong, some 300,000, are welcome home now that the Communist Chinese government has imposed repressive new security laws. But the government is mute, unlike many of our democratic allies, on broader issues of extended visas or refuge for the many more Hong Kongers who may seek sanctuary in Canada. Mr. Speaker, what is the plan for the expected surge of asylum seekers?
Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, I want to be unequivocally clear. Canada stands shoulder to shoulder with Hong Kong and shares the grave concerns of the international community over mainland China's national security legislation. As the Prime Minister said, we will continue to support the many connections between Canada and Hong Kong while also standing up for its people. Canada is exploring measures beyond those announced, including exploring immigration options, and we will have more to say in due course.
L'honorable député de Marc-Aurèle-Fortin.
The Honourable Member for Marc-Aurèle-Fortin. Mr. Speaker, over the last few weeks, our government has worked hard to give tools to young Laval entrepreneurs. Can the Minister tell us more about the Department's investment of more than $3.1 million to increase business opportunities, create jobs for youth throughout Quebec, and thus strengthen the economy? The Honourable Minister for Economic Development. I'd like to thank my colleague for Marc-Aurèle-Fortin from Laval for his excellent question. And indeed, the future of our economy depends on the talents of our youth. And that's why, with the Global Day for Youth Skills, we have announced $3.1 million in support to support 14 projects for youth entrepreneurship. This will allow them to benefit from personalized support. We believe in our youth for creating good jobs and new businesses. Thank you.
Prince George, Peace River, Northern Rockies.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With an annual economic effect of over $5.5 billion and over 37,000 jobs supported nationally, the guide and outfitting sector is vital to Canada's rural and remote communities. In Canada, they typically welcome over 300,000 fishing and hunting clients from outside of Canada, the vast majority from the United States. With the border now closed at least until August 21st, an entire season has been lost, and many outfitters are struggling to keep their businesses afloat. Outfitters I've spoken with are saying wage subsidies and loans aren't helping. What is this government doing to ensure our fishing and hunting guides and outfitters survive?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Mr. Speaker, obviously I agree with my colleague. Many outfitters and tourism operators are deeply impacted by the pandemic and the economic crisis. And that's why we decided to come up with a new fund, which is the Regional Recovery Fund, that is there to help them. We've been supporting many outfitters across Northern Ontario, across Atlantic Canada and the West. And if my colleague has a specific case in mind, please come and see me. We can definitely look at it, and we will continue to help them through these difficult times. Thank you.
Well, member for Red Deer Lacombe.
Mr. Speaker, Canada's energy sector was devastated by this Liberal government long before COVID-19. Since 2015, the Alberta economy has been battered by the Liberals' job-killing anti-energy policies. That's why it's disappointing and shameful, but not surprising, that the energy sector has been waiting for 118 days to get the help they need, despite the Minister of Finance claiming that help was just hours or days away. So, without the revenue from a strong energy sector, how does the Prime Minister plan to come up with the tax dollars to illegally funnel his friends?
Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, the energy sector and its workers continue to be affected by COVID-19 and the global surge in oil supply. We have taken action to create jobs, Mr. Speaker, through the remediation of inactive and abandoned wells, a program that has seen tens of thousands of applications in Alberta and Saskatchewan. We're also supporting the sector, Mr. Speaker, with a 75% wage subsidy to keep Canadians working. Since day one, Mr. Speaker, our government has been steadfast in our support for the hardworking men and women in our energy sector.
The honourable member for Saskatoon-Grasswood.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It's hard not to feel disappointed in this Liberal government because every day there's a new scandal. The Prime Minister has already broken our ethic laws not once, twice, and now he is under a conflict of interest investigation yet again. Remember 2017, it was this Liberal government that paid over $1 million to We for an event right here on Parliament Hill, featuring the Prime Minister's own mother. Can the Prime Minister tell this House whether or not his mother was paid for this appearance?
Honorable Ministre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We Charity was one of several organizations to have submitted a Canada 150 proposal to the Department of Canadian Heritage that was subsequently selected. The two Canada 100 contribution agreement between We Charity and the Department of Canadian Heritage were approved by the minister responsible at the time at the recommendation of the department officials. Cabinet was not involved in the process of approval of these contribution agreements. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable député de Vimy.
The honourable member for Vimy.
The Investing in Canada plan is an unprecedented $180 billion program to upgrade our infrastructure across the country. This plan represents the largest such investment in our national economy and environment, more than doubling existing funding. Now more than ever, this investment can deliver the economic stimulus required during Canada's post-COVID recovery. Can the Minister of Infrastructure and Communities comment on the progress that has been made in putting this plan into action?
Good question. Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to thank the member for Vimy for her question. Our government's Investing in Canada plan has allocated $7.5 billion to help build up Quebec projects. These investments include public transit, they include clean water and clean energy, healthy and active transportation. We're going to be continuing to work with the government of Quebec and municipalities across Quebec to get good projects built that build a cleaner, stronger, more prosperous future.
Hear, hear.
L'honorable député de Rosemont-la-Petite.
The honourable member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. This is unprecedented, Mr. Speaker. For the third time, the Prime Minister is under investigation by the Ethics and Conflict of Interest Commissioner. Third time. Wow. By going around the public service, he gave an untendered contract of nearly $1 billion to an organization he is so close to that it's like a big spider web. They're very entitled, the Liberals, and so they're blind when it comes to awarding contracts to their friends. So why is it that young people and students who are paying the price for the fact that Liberals cannot resist giving presents to their friends?
Mr. Speaker, we have been clear when it comes to the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner, the investigation that is ongoing. We will comply with this office. When it comes to supports for students, the Canada Student Service Grant was an additional measure for students. So we've already come forward with the Canada Emergency Response Benefit. We've already added 10,000 jobs to Canada's Summer Jobs Program. We have put a moratorium on interest relief or Canada student loan payments, and this program will go ahead. We are working around the clock to ensure that it does, because we want to ensure that students and not-for-profits have the support they need at this necessary time. That remains our focus. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And that's all the time we have for today. C'est tout pour aujourd'hui. A point of order, the Honourable Member for Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke.
Mr. Speaker, during member statements, although the Deputy House Leader knows points of order do not apply, he objected to my referencing the Trudeau family receiving WE payments. If the Deputy House Leader insists I made reference to the Prime Minister receiving funds intended for charity, a more expansive investigation is needed so Canadians can learn how much the Prime Minister himself received.
Hear, hear.
I want to thank the Honourable Member. I'll take that under advisement. Tabling of documents. And I guess I'm the first one to table a document today. I have the honour to lay upon the table the House of Commons report to Canadians for 2020.